Hi, Mr. Bouchong here again. This is section 9 of Algebra 1 at Lake Central, writing equations in slope-intercept form. This is part 2. Uh, Today we're dealing with writing equations that are parallel or perpendicular to other lines. Well, let's keep in mind what we're looking for in writing an equation in slope-intercept form. We want to come up with y equals mx plus b. Now, certain characteristics about parallel lines. Parallel lines, what do we know about the slopes of parallel lines? Well, they are the same. So whatever the slope is of one line, anything that's parallel to it has the same slope. Let's look at perpendicular lines. Perpendicular lines have negative reciprocal slopes. We'll talk more about that one later. Let's talk about writing equations in slope-intercept form. In slope-intercept form, first thing you always do, find the slope. Now, a lot of things could happen in finding the slope. It could be given. The slope might be given to you in the original problem. Or you might be, although probably not so much in this class, but you might be looking at the graph, in which case you will be looking at rise over run. Or you could be given 2 points. If you're given 2 points, you're going to be using the formula. M is equal to y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Now, and this is what we're talking about today. Parallel lines have the same slope. Perpendicular lines have negative reciprocal slopes. So, class, no matter what's going on, you're always going to be finding the slope first when you write an equation in slope-intercept form. All right, once you find the slope, next thing you're going to be doing is finding the y-intercept. And again, it could be given. If it is, great, run with it. But if not, and usually not, you're going to be starting with y equals mx plus b and do what we've done before, plug in numbers for y, m, and the x to be able to solve for b. After you do that, you can write the equation. All right, let's look at number 1 here. We want a line that is parallel to y equals 3x minus 6 and passes through the point negative 2, 1. Well, I've taken the liberty here of putting a graph in. And if I were to graph y is equal to 3x minus 6, I would be starting at negative 6 on the y-axis, rise 3, run 1, and I would be coming up with this line. Okay, now, here's the thing though. That's the old line. I want a new one. I want a line that is parallel to that. And it goes through the point negative 2, 1. Where is negative 2, 1? It's right here, negative 2, 1. See, I want the equation of the line that's parallel to this one, but goes through this point. So I'm looking for a line that does this. So what's the slope? Well, whatever this slope is, that's the slope of my new line. The only thing is, I need a new y-intercept. So let's take care of all this. Let's get rid of all this stuff right here. All right, so I want the equation of the line that's parallel to y is equal to 3x minus 6 and passes through the point negative 2, 1. Well, in my old line, I have an old slope. What's the old slope? 3. My new line, it's going to be the same as that. So my new slope is going to be 3. That's what I'm going to be using in my new equation. Now, this old y-intercept, don't need it. I'm looking for a new y-intercept. I'm looking for a new b. So what do? Always start with y equals mx plus b. When you're in this portion of the problem, automatic, start with y equals mx plus b. And we're going to do exactly what we've been doing all the way up to this point. I'm going to plug in 1 for y is equal to 3 for m, negative 2 for b, for x, and we're going to solve for b. 1 is equal to negative 6 plus b. When I add 6 to both sides, I get b is equal to 7. So my new equation, y equals 3x plus 7. In number 2, a line that's parallel to 3x plus y is equal to 12 and passes through the point negative 1, 6. Well, we have to be careful, class, because the slope in this problem is not 3. Remember, we have to get the y by itself, so we're going to have to subtract 3x from both sides, and I get y is equal to negative 3x plus 12. So I want the equation of the line that's parallel to this, but goes through this point. How do I do that? Well, the old slope is negative 3. So is my new slope, because parallel lines have slopes that are the same. How do I find a new y-intercept? Start with y equals mx plus b. I'm going to plug in 6 for the y, equals negative 3 for m, negative 1 for x plus b. 6 is equal to 3 plus b. Subtracting 3 from both sides, b is equal to 3. So my new equation, y is equal to negative 3x plus 3. Number 3, I want a line with a y-intercept of 2 and is parallel to 4x minus 2y equals negative 8. Let's look at the information that we have. We know the y-intercept is 2. It's parallel to this equation. Well, what's the slope of that line? Well, in order to find out, we have to solve for y. So I'm going to subtract 4x from both sides of the equation. I get negative 2y is equal to negative 4x minus 8. Divide everything, divide throughout by negative 2. Y is equal to 2x plus 4. Well, so I want the equation of the line that's parallel to this. So what's the old slope? Well, the old slope is 2. So what's the new slope? Well, it's also 2. Now, we don't need to look for the y-intercept. It's already given. It already says b is equal to 2. So what's my equation in slope-intercept form? Y is equal to 2x plus 2. So let's talk about perpendicular lines. Here's how to find the slope perpendicular. What you're going to do is flip the fraction over. That'll give you the reciprocal. And then change the sign. That'll make it the negative of whatever it was. So here's my point. If I want the equation of the line that's perpendicular to this, but goes through this point, I have to realize that my old slope is 1/2. That's my old slope. Well, what's the new slope? The new slope, I take this fraction, flip it over, and change the sign. So my new slope is negative 2. The negative reciprocal of positive 1/2 is negative 2. This is what I'm going to be using in my new equation. How do we find the y-intercept? Always start with y equals mx plus b. In this portion of the problem, you're always starting with y equals mx plus b. You can't go wrong. What do we do from here? Plug in the negative 5 for the y. Plug in the negative 2 for the m. We take that negative 2 times x, which is 4, plus b. Negative 5 is equal to negative 8 plus b. Add 8 to both sides. B is equal to 3. So what's our new equation? Y equals negative 2x plus 3. That is a negative there. Number 5, a line perpendicular to 2x plus 4y is equal to 12. What's the slope? Well, we have to solve for y. Subtract 2x from both sides. We get 4y is equal to negative 2x plus 12. Divide through by 4. and we get y is equal to negative 1/2 x plus 3. What's our old slope? It's negative 1/2. What's our new slope? Flip it over, change the sign, positive 2. How do we find the y-intercept? Do we use 3? No, throw that out. We don't want that. That's the old one. How do we find a new one? Always start with y equals mx plus b. We throw in the 3 for the y, equals 2 for the m, negative 1 for the x, plus b. 3 is equal to negative 2 plus b. Adding 2 to both sides, b is equal to 5. So what's our new equation? Y equals 2x plus 5. And then last, we want the equation of a line that is perpendicular to 4x minus 3y is equal to 9. And the y-intercept is 5. So keep that in mind as we go through this. 4x minus 3y equals 9. Let's do that over here. We have to find the slope, which means we need to get the y by itself. Write this in slope-intercept form. We have negative 3y is equal to negative 4x plus 9. Dividing through by negative 3. We have an old equation, and keep in mind, this is the old equation. Y is equal to 4/3 x minus 3. So what's the old slope? 4/3. What's the new slope? Flip it over and change the sign. It'll be negative 3/4. That's the new slope that I'm going to want. This one, finding the y-intercept. Well, it says the y-intercept is 5, so b is equal to 5. So our equation, y is equal to negative 3/4 x plus 5. So how about a review? Write the equation of a line that has a slope of negative 3 and a y-intercept of 7. Well, m is equal to negative 3. The y-intercept, b, is equal to 7. So you have y is equal to negative 3x plus 7. Write the equation of a line that has a slope of 2 and passes through 2, 3. Well, you know that m is equal to 2. So after you plug everything into y equals mx plus b, you get b is equal to negative 1. So y is equal to 2x minus 1. And then lastly, when you write the equation of a line that passes through negative 3, 4, and 2, 3, you're going to be using y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1 to find the slope. That'll be 3 minus 4 in the numerator. 2 minus negative 3 in the denominator. What do you end up with? Negative 1/5. Plug that into y equals mx plus b. With either of these 2 points, it doesn't make any difference. 4 is equal to negative 1/5 times negative 3 plus b. 3/5 on the right side needs to be subtracted from 4. You get 3 and 2/5. So the equation of this line is y equals negative 1/5 x plus 3 and 2/5.